Right as the cozy dining table, the atmosphere suddenly grew suffocating as Duke Dominic, the head of the Noha family, cold-bloodedly issued a command. Get married. Charlotte. He demanded that she capture Duke Edward before he could marry into another house. Stunned by this unreasonable demand, Charlotte's brother, Quincy, hesitated. Father, this is far too sudden. Charlotte only just woke up after collapsing a week ago. However, Dominic brushed him off instantly. To him, time could not be wasted on weakness. Recently, the Emperor had stripped the family of several coastal trade rights. Duke Edward's sudden intent to marry was a power move orchestrated by the crown. If House Noha could form a marriage alliance with Edward, the Emperor would no longer be able to touch them. Thus, this marriage had to be secured at all costs. Quincy still tried to object, but his father immediately glared and barked. Silence, Quincy. Do not think that being the heir allows you to talk back to the head of the house. The tension in the room grew palpable. Dominic's demand was truly absurd. Alfonso Linus Edward, cousin to the reigning emperor, head of a prestigious house holding vast riches from the sanctuary, was a man as cold as ice. Forcing such a man to marry a girl from a family branded as villains was a laughable decree. Amidst the peak of this tension, a calm voice broke the silence. Yes, I understand. Father, I will get married. Charlotte's immediate compliance left Quincy stunned, unable to comprehend why his sister was acting so strangely. But to Charlotte, doing whatever benefited the house was a true Noha way. Dominic was immensely pleased. He smirked, probing to see if she was certain she could capture Edward. Charlotte smiled with complete confidence. Of course, that'll be child's play for me. And those were by no means empty words, for in her past life, she had once brought that proud man to his knees, kissing her feet. At this moment, Charlotte hurriedly raised a handkerchief to her mouth, coughing violently. The pure white handkerchief was now stained with deep crimson blood. Her blood-coughing condition had been worsening steadily since yesterday. She told herself she had to act quickly, for every passing second now was exceedingly precious. It all stemmed from a staggering secret. Charlotte had turned back time, recalling her father's triumphant expression. She gave a soft, mocking smirk. He always believed she would meekly obey him, as she always had. But this time, everything was different. In this second life, her sole purpose was clear. She would save Alfonso at all costs. In her previous life, Charlotte had entered this marriage carrying profound regret. And why? Because on her most grand day, as she slipped the ring onto his finger, the man had looked at her with deathly cold eyes and uttered cruel words. Even if I marry you, I'll never love you. Beginning as a rough, contractual pact, the facade of that fake marriage turned into the greatest tragedy of her life, all because she had truly fallen for the man who utterly despised her. In the past, Alfonso had repeatedly rejected marriage proposals from House Noha, partly due to her family's notorious reputation, but mostly because of Charlotte herself. In the eyes of others, she was seen as a villainess, a loyal puppet who blindly obeyed her father's every command without hesitation. To succeed in forcing the marriage, Charlotte had resorted to the most despicable, cunning schemes. She set traps, spread false rumors about their relationship, and personally ruined every other romantic prospect he had. Cornered by his own family's mounting troubles, Alfonso had no choice but to hastily marry her. Through such treacherous means, she claimed him as her own. It was no wonder Alfonso harbored deep hatred for his wife. That cold, lifeless marriage dragged on, until Alfonso fell in love with another woman, Adeline Lavose. A complete contrast to Charlotte's sharp and abrasive nature. Adeline possessed a bright and radiant smile. Whenever he was by her side, Alfonso's face lit up with boundless happiness. He looked truly alive. It was a tender gaze he had never and would never grant to Charlotte. Then one day, unable to suppress her curiosity about his true feelings, Charlotte blurted out an impulsive question. Do you love her? Her answer was merely a bone-chilling glare. What do you want now? If I say yes, will you go spread rumors again? She has nothing to do with this, so leave her alone. Seeing his furious reaction, Charlotte bitterly realized how much that woman meant to him. Even so, she stubbornly pressed on. Even if our marriage is only a name, it is still a vow between our families. Do you love her enough to break everything? Charlotte. Alfonso snapped her name. Before uttering a desperate plea, I beg of you, don't make me any more miserable. His words were like knives thrusting straight into her heart. Had she been the villainess of House Noha as before, she would have unleashed her fury. Yet watching his lonely, haggard figure walk away, her heart tightened with anguish. She decided to let go. She wanted a divorce, because deep down, She longed for him to be happy more than anyone else in the world. Her father had passed away by then. Charlotte sought out her half-brother Quincy, who was now head of the house, to ask him to initiate divorce proceedings. For the first time in her life, she sat down to write a letter, bravely confronting her truest feelings. Then she set it ablaze with her own hands, hoping to burn away this ill-fated love along with it. To her, love was a tragedy, and no one could ever be happy clinging to such destructive passion. Yet that flame of love never died out, only burning ever more fiercely within her. Until one day, Charlotte's world completely shattered. Words echoed in her ears like a death sentence. "I am deeply sorry to inform you, but your husband did not survive. We attempted to interrogate the suspect to find the mastermind, but he took his own life before questioning. At this rate, we will never learn who the true culprit is." Charlotte stood frozen in the darkness. The first man who showed her what it meant to truly love someone, but was now lost to her forever. The ruthless killer who stole her beloved's life was none other than her own family. Charlotte rushed to confront Quincy, her half-brother who had become head of House Noha. She screamed in sheer fury. "Why? Why did you kill my husband? Answer me." Quincy Noha. She could not fathom it. Alfonso was hardly a threat that required elimination. Did he ever oppose our family? What was the reason for this? Charlotte choked back her sobs. "At least you, my own brother, were always on my side. I even explicitly wrote in my letter that I loved Alfonso." Hearing this, a look of utter confusion washed over his face. "Didn't you say you wanted a divorce?" "Charlotte, what are you talking about?" As it turned out, a fatal misunderstanding, coupled with the family's cold cruelty, led to this tragedy. In the eyes of House Noha's head, a mere divorce brought far too many complex troubles, like alimony settlements. Quincy spoke with cold indifference. Killing him was far simpler. "That is the Noha way. Don't you know that all too well?" Quincy's ruthlessness suffocated Charlotte's heart. She glared at her own flesh and blood with burning hatred. "Go to hell, Quincy." For the first time in her life, Charlotte felt deep resentment toward the blood running through her veins, the title of Villainess, and the pride in her Noha bloodline that she once revered, now only filled her with disgust for her past self. The things she had taken the greatest pride in had ultimately turned into the blade that ended the life of the man she loved. After that tragedy, Charlotte used magic to seal away Alfonso's body. Alone, she trudged through freezing blizzards, wandering across the vast continent in search of a faint sliver of hope. To bring him back to life, "Just wait for me a little longer, Alfonso," even if those around her pointed fingers and mocked her as a madwoman, even if her body broke down and her spirit shattered completely. She would never allow herself to stop. Her footsteps sank deep into the white snow, her eyes blurred with tears, yet holding an unwavering conviction. "I will save you, no matter what." And then, after endless desperate efforts, a mysterious voice echoed through the silent void. A magical hand touched her directly. "To resurrect a life demands a very steep price, my lady. The stronger the magic, the more fuel it requires." The hooded figure wearing a sun-patterned mask coldly warned Charlotte. "Unless it is the life of one driven by intense desire, otherwise, the magic cannot be activated. If you fear death, then turn back now." In response to that threat, Charlotte merely let out a faint smirk. So then, all it needed was her life, didn't it? Her gaze remained firm without a hint of hesitation. If she could save Alfonso, then this life of hers would finally have purpose. "Very well. Kill me and bring him back." The mysterious figure agreed, but reminded her of a crucial condition. The ritual was driven by her own inner desire. Depending on what that desire was, the result could end up terrible, completely contrary to her original expectations. He pressed her, asking what her true desire really was. Without a single moment of hesitation, Charlotte replied, "My desire is Alfonso's happiness. Nothing more." The mysterious figure stated the final condition. Regardless of the outcome, this ritual would last 1 year at most. If within that time, her desire did not come to pass, everything would end in vain. Charlotte accepted serenely, watching her composure. The sorcerer marveled softly, remarking that she seemed to place no value on her own life. Little did he know, deep within Charlotte's heart, everyone treasured their own life. It was simply that some things were worth trading her very life for. If bringing Alfonso back meant she could finally speak the unspoken feelings of her heart. She wanted to see him live happily alongside the woman he truly loved. She owed him an apology for forcing him into a tragic marriage, and she owed him her gratitude. For no matter how terrible she had been, he had always fulfilled his duty as her husband, and that necklace he had once given her It was so exquisite that a wretched soul like her felt overwhelmed with joy, staying awake through the night, unable to sleep. The sorcerer handed Charlotte a glowing purple potion in the night, telling her that once she drank it, the ritual would commence. Holding the vial in her hand, Charlotte smiled with utter contentment. Even if I cannot dream of a happy future by your side, it matters not. So long as you are alive, so long as you are happy, my life means nothing in comparison. She tilted her head back and drank every drop. The glass vial tumbled down onto the cold snow. My lady, are you awake? A panic call echoed in her ears, pulling Charlotte awake. Her eyes snapped open, gazing around in utter bewilderment. Why did the scene before her look so painfully familiar? Was this not her old bedchamber from her time in House Noha? The maid asked anxiously. She mentioned that Charlotte had fallen down the stairs and asked if she was hurt. Seeing Charlotte staring blankly at her own hands, the maid assumed she was exhausted from attending endless tea parties hosted by the sanctuary and offered to fetch a doctor. At the mention of the tea parties hosted by the sanctuary, Charlotte's heart skipped a beat. Those were social gatherings she had attended long ago, far before her marriage. Tears welled in her eyes, and Charlotte cradled her face, unable to believe the miraculous reality before her eyes. The prayer she traded her very life for had truly come to pass. She had genuinely returned, back to the time before she ever married Alfonso. Standing quietly before the sunlit window, Charlotte pressed her hand against the cold glass. Everything felt far too vivid to doubt. She really had traveled back to the past. She had brought that man back into this world. Yet, the fact that she, the sacrifice, remained alive meant one thing. Her true desire was not yet complete. The spell's duration would last for a mere single year. She had to make Alfonso happy within this time frame, for if she failed, time would reset to its original state, and Alfonso's fate would once again end in death. Thinking of him, Charlotte's heart grew heavy once more. She finally understood why in her past life he had never shown a single smile. He had carried far too heavy a burden. Cousin to the reigning emperor, the youngest and most gifted patriarch of the prestigious House Edward, and the empire's war hero celebrated for countless glorious victories. Yet all that glory, in the end, became the very blades that drove him to his demise. His loyalty and victories had secured absolute power for the imperial throne, and once the emperor possessed enough strength, he stripped House Noha of its trade rights. That was the catalyst for all the tragedy. The reason her father forced Alfonso into marriage to save their house. Recalling her father's scheming face when giving her the command, Charlotte let out a faint, bitter smile. Of course, father. I know very well what must be done. But this time, it will not be for House Noha, but for his happiness. She knew exactly who could bring a true smile to that cold man's face. Adelaine Lavrose. Now that she knew the woman he truly loved, she was determined to bring them together, making him the happiest man in the world. Lost in her thoughts, a sudden violent cough struck, causing Charlotte to stagger. She quickly covered her mouth with a handkerchief, and as she pulled it away, the pristine white cloth was soaked in fresh blood. In her previous life, her body had been perfectly healthy, showing no signs of such severe illness. It had to be a side effect of the magic ritual. Her face grew pale, yet her eyes burned with fierce determination. She could not let her failing health stand in her way. Seeing her cough up blood, the maid, Sylvia, panicked and turned to call a doctor, but Charlotte stopped her immediately. No need for that. More importantly, Sylvia, please prepare the carriage. She had to act quickly before her condition worsened. From the moment she drank the magic potion, Charlotte had cast aside all fear of life and death. Her own life meant nothing to her anymore. The only terror she felt now was that even if she sacrificed her life, she might still fail to save the man she loved. Sylvia obeyed and prepared to leave, softly asking where her lady intended to go. Charlotte looked straight ahead with steadfast eyes, her strategy already mapped out in her mind. Very well. We shall head to Earl Olivier's estate. Meanwhile, inside a smoothly rolling carriage, Princess Sophia, the reigning emperor's younger sister, teased Alfonso relentlessly about his upcoming marriage. The playful princess insisted Earl Olivier must have been overjoyed for the past 3 days, for who would be foolish enough to reject the powerful head of House Edward? In the eyes of the princess and the entire empire, Alfonso was not merely the emperor's cousin, but a newly crowned war hero with an overwhelming victory record. He was the capital's most coveted bachelor. Alfonso could only sigh, telling Sophia to stop as the proposal had not been officially discussed. He cared little for such flashy titles. Sophia pouted, asking why he had ignored marriage for 10 years only to rush into it so suddenly now. Alfonso calmly replied, "People's hearts eventually change. This has nothing to do with you. and you are merely good at criticizing. Even so, Sophia could not hide her disappointment. Though prestigious, House Olivier was far inferior to House Edward. She began to nag, pointing out that ladies from other great houses had long been settled. Then she turned her focus to House Noha, harshly mocking how a family that did not know its place dared send him a marriage proposal. Before Sophia could even finish, Alfonso coldly interrupted her. "Stop right there. Sophia, that is enough. I politely declined House Noha's proposal, citing a prior arrangement, so you need not concern yourself or make a scene." Seeing his unyielding stance, Sophia reluctantly obeyed. She changed the subject, curiously asking if he had met Earl Olivier's daughter yet. Alfonso answered that he planned to meet her today at Earl Olivier's banquet. Sophia brightened with excitement, sincerely wishing for everything to go well so she might gain a confidant at the ducal estate, where no one her age was around to keep her company. Looking at the princess's expectant face, Alfonso offered a faint smile. "Do not worry, everything will be fine. Nothing could possibly go wrong." And yet, reality struck a cruel blow against that supreme confidence. Right in the quiet, sunlit garden of the Olivier estate, a heartbreaking romantic drama was unfolding. Lady Lila Olivier, Alfonso's prospective fiancé, was weeping bitterly before another man named Ethan. The young lady sobbed in helplessness. "I must marry Duke Edward. It is my father's wish." Ethan cried out in anguish. "But I cannot let you go. Lila Olivier, I truly need you." With tears streaming down her face, Lila begged her lover not to make things harder, as her own heart was torn apart. Witnessing his future fiancé pledging eternal love to another man, the normally imposing Duke felt instantly awkward and bewildered. Left with only one desperate thought, "I'm ruined." Rewinding the clock just a bit, before this minor tragedy unfolded, Earl Olivier's party was progressing smoothly. The hall was bustling with guests, filled with lively chatter and laughter. Yet beneath it all lingered hushed whispers and furtive glances stealing toward the doorway. The atmosphere suddenly grew strangely tense. Princess Sophia, ever sharp, sensed the anomaly. She lightly nudged her cousin's arm. "Don't you feel something is off? What on earth is happening?" Just at that moment, Earl Olivier came breathlessly rushing over, drenched in sweat, bowing deeply to apologize to Duke Edward for his sudden absence. He excused himself with an urgent matter, claiming a stray mouse nearly caused a fire in the kitchen. Alfonso politely replied that it was quite fine, but quickly cut straight to the point. "More importantly, where's Lady Layla?" Earl Olivier hurriedly explained he was just about to address that. He claimed he was so occupied that he had neglected his daughter, believing the marriage proposal was progressing smoothly. He offered to fetch Layla so they could meet naturally. And so, Earl Olivier led Alfonso into the garden to find his daughter. Little did he expect. What met their eyes was Layla passionately embracing another man. Witnessing this whole ironic drama unfold, Alfonso could only sigh in deep weariness, raising a hand to press his forehead. The man revered as the gentleman of the century had now fallen into such an embarrassing plight. He thought to himself, "I cannot selfishly force someone who doesn't love me. Consider this marriage as though it never happened." Seeing her father appear alongside Alfonso, Layla panicked and shoved Ethan away. Earl Olivier turned pale as death, stammering incoherently. "Layla, Ethan, what on earth is going on here? Why are you two together?" Ethan immediately stepped forward to shield Layla, summoning all his courage to face the Earl. "My lord, I will explain everything. The lady and I are truly, deeply in love. Please grant us your permission to marry." Earl Olivier was so stunned that his jaw dropped, his eyes rolling back in utter shock. He bellowed in rage and indignation. "What? I took in a street orphan like you and raised you. And now, instead of showing gratitude, you dare— Oh, heavens above." Before he could even finish his sentence, Earl Olivier clutched his chest and collapsed to the ground, fainting on the spot. In a panic, Layla and Ethan rushed to catch him. A short while later, Princess Sophia hurriedly arrived in search of Alfonso. The moment she spotted him, a stream of questions poured from her lips. "There you are. I was wondering why you hadn't returned, so I came to check. What happened? Is Earl Olivier all right?" Alfonso replied calmly. The Earl fainted from shock. "According to the doctor, though, it's nothing serious." Sophia breathed a sigh of relief, but then her face turned into a frown as she complained. "Good heavens, what kind of day is this? The mood in the banquet hall earlier was so strange. Haven't you heard? Right before we arrived, an uninvited guest showed up." Alfonso frowned slightly. An uninvited guest? Who could possibly cause such a commotion at the party? Who else could it be? Sophia pouted in utter disgust. That notorious villainess of House Noha, Charlotte Noha. That brazen woman actually dared to show her face here. Sitting leisurely in her room, Charlotte listened to the rumors spreading rapidly. Earl Olivia fainted. How is his condition now? Sylvia, her maid, reported. I heard he has regained consciousness. It seems he merely fainted from shock. Charlotte let out a soft sigh of relief. She had known all along that this would happen. Yet the puppet master orchestrating this entire drama, none other than her, that morning. As soon as she set foot in the Olivier mansion, Charlotte was blocked by the host himself. He sneered. Get out of here. You cannot enter my home without an invitation. Charlotte replied with a disdainful smirk. When even a tiny mouse can freely enter Olivier's kitchen, is it right to turn someone away merely for lacking an invitation? Stunned, he stammered. What? Are you slandering me? Slander? Charlotte smirked. I only say so because I saw a rat scurrying about your house, and I feared it might nip at my dress. Charlotte's loaded remark made Earl Olivier turn pale. Charlotte leveraged her villainous reputation to stir up the party. She deliberately caused trouble, sparking hushed whispers about her audacious behavior. Everyone knew the villainess of House Noha would do anything to achieve her goals. While all eyes were fixed on her, Charlotte swiftly struck up a conversation with Ethan, Lila's lover. Feigning sympathy for his plight, she cleverly disclosed the blind date between Lila and Alfonso. Charlotte let out a sigh. To see such an innocent lady bound by an arranged marriage, what a tragic shame. Ethan asked back, My lady, how could you possibly know of this? Charlotte smiled mysteriously. Have you not heard the rumors about me? Regardless, if you do not hurry, you will lose her forever. Posing as a benevolent benefactor, she guided Ethan to the garden where Lila was waiting. And so, everything unfolded according to her design. The stage had been set impeccably. In her past life, they had eloped together. Because of this, after Earl Olivier fainted, his struggle for survival against death became legendary among high society. Fortunately, in this lifetime, Charlotte intervened just in time, preventing the tragedy from repeating itself. She granted the lovers a chance to be together, while smoothly undoing Alfonso's arranged match. With her plans succeeding brilliantly, Charlotte smiled with satisfaction. Now, having cleared the first obstacle, she was ready for the next step in her plan, bringing Alfonso and Adeline together, the woman he truly loved. To accomplish this, she needed to move swiftly. The banquet hall of House Obuni was unusually grand and magnificent tonight, bustling with noble guests. Melodic music mingled with lively chatter. On the second-floor balcony, Jacqueline Obuni, the powerful head of the family, was trying to calm her younger sister, Devona. Devona complained resentfully. You don't understand anything. You arranged my marriage to Duke Edward without asking me. I don't want to get married yet. Jacqueline sighed, fanning herself with a peacock feather fan. Do you know how many people dream of marrying Edward? Marriage isn't something you can just decide on a whim. I know, but... Devona hesitated, clutching her skirt tightly in her hands. I have goals far more important than getting married. Jacqueline frowned, her gaze turning sharp and cold. Is that perfume shop the reason you're hesitating? Don't talk about it like that. I put my entire heart into those perfumes. Devona insisted firmly, stubbornness gleaming in her eyes. If I try just a little harder, I'm certain I'll succeed. Please trust me just this once. But Jacqueline remained unmoved. She coldly extinguished her sister's hopes. Enough. Devona, I already gave you a whole year, didn't I? And you've achieved nothing with that shop of yours. It's time to face reality. If the business fails, you must marry. That was our deal. Devona hung her head low, her sister's words cutting into her pride like sharp blades. Jacqueline continued her persuasion, her tone softening slightly, yet remaining firmly imposing. If you wish to make perfume as a hobby after getting married, that is up to you. You are still young, and you may want to try doing everything. But in the end, every woman must eventually settle down. After marriage? When? Devona asked back in despair. After having children, or after they have grown up. Would the Duchess ever be allowed to run a business and ignore household duties? Especially in such a prestigious family? I've poured my whole life into perfume. I cannot simply give up. She snapped. What do you mean, after marriage? You know full well I'd have to give it up. Unable to bear it any longer, Devona turned and fled. She rushed down the stairs at full speed, ignoring her sister calling out after her. Tears streamed down her beautiful face. She knew what her sister said was true. In high society, people only cared for renowned brands and superficial status, while her nameless perfumes, no matter how exquisite the scent, would never receive a second glance. If only my perfume were known to more people. Devona thought to herself. her heart filled with bitterness. Just as she was drowning in despair, a faint fragrance suddenly drifted past her nose. An extraordinarily subtle and unique scent. Devona froze, looking around in bewilderment. Amidst the noisy crowd, a group of ladies gathered around a woman with vibrant red hair. A curious lady asked, "Oh, this scent is exquisite. Where did you find it?" The redhead smiled. "A small shop in an alley off 4th Street. I don't know who the creator is, but they are incredibly talented." The others gasped in delight. Vying to praise her refined taste, Devona stood frozen, her eyes locked onto the bottle in the woman's hand. Wasn't that the very perfume she had crafted herself? And the woman holding it, none other than Charlotte Noha, the infamous villainess of high society. Despite her reputation, Charlotte is a fashion icon admired by every young lady, whatever she wears, from a simple silver pin to her elaborate gowns. It quickly becomes the season's trend. Why would she use perfume from my shop? Standing from afar, Devona held her breath, listening to the ladies' chatter. The crowd huddled around, unending in their praise for the bottle in Charlotte's hands. Beyond the scent itself, they were captivated by the exquisite bottle design. Charlotte gently stroked the glass, smiling as she explained, "It looked too plain, so I decorated it myself. I'm thinking of telling the owner that with better packaging, it would sell so much better." Charlotte's words struck Devona like a bolt of lightning. Her heart pounded in her chest. Why was Charlotte speaking so loudly? Did she know who the owner was? That was impossible. That secret was only known to Devona, her assistant, and her sister, Jacqueline. Yet Charlotte's attitude made one thing clear. She knew perfectly well, and was intentionally handing Devona the key to success, not wasting a golden opportunity. Devona turned around, running desperately to find her sister. As soon as she saw Jacqueline, she grasped her hands tightly, her eyes burning with fierce hope. "Sister, call off the engagement. Cancel it right now. I found the secret to making the shop a resounding success in just a month." While Devona rejoiced over her newly found escape, over at Duke Edward's estate, a burst of laughter shattered the usual silence. Ludwig, the third son of House Barthélemy, doubled over in laughter, tears streaming down his face. He simply couldn't believe his ears. Good heavens. Rejected because she's too busy running a perfume business? Forgive me, Your Grace, but I never imagined you'd be turned down for such a ridiculous reason. Serge, the aide, urged him to preserve their master's dignity. Yet Serge himself found the Duke's tragic love life rather amusing. The first bride was caught secretly meeting her lover. The second rejected him over a perfume venture. It was surprising that a sharp woman like Lady Jacqueline prioritized her sister's passion over a grand marriage. Unlike his amused subordinates, Alfonso remained completely calm. He understood that despite her formidable business persona, Jacqueline was still a sister who deeply cherished Devona. Softly, Alfonso spoke. "Besides, forcing a lady into an unwanted marriage would weigh on my conscience. I respect her decision. In fact, I even bought this bottle of perfume to show my support." With that, he placed a shimmering glass bottle onto the table, its cap adorned with a butterfly and exquisite azure blossoms. Serge and Ludwig gasped at its unique, lavish design, but Ludwig's smile vanished as a familiar detail struck him. "Wait a moment. Isn't this Charlotte Noha perfume? I heard because Lady Charlotte used it, it became so famous they named it after her." "Your Grace, it seems fate ties you deeply to Lady Charlotte Noha." As the name Charlotte Noha echoed, a heavy chill fell over the room. Alfonso's gaze instantly hardened. This coincidence was far too perfect to be mere chance. Alfonso turned to his aide, his tone turning cold and resolute. "Serge, our third proposal came from House Mavel, didn't it? Investigate everything about the Marquise and Lady Vivienne. Find out if she has a secret lover or hides any secrets. At all costs, you must eliminate every loophole, so the name Charlotte Noha can never interfere in my life again." Standing before the mirror, Charlotte gently stroked her fiery red hair, calculating her next move in silence. Everything was progressing splendidly. This was already the second time Alfonso's engagement had been called off. Now, only one target remained. Lady Vivienne Mavel. Sylvia, her maid, reported. "From what I have gathered, Lady Vivienne Mavel has no secret lovers, nor does she engage in any suspicious activities." Charlotte nodded slowly. Unlike Lila Olivier, who hid a secret lover, or Devona Obuni, who harbored business ambitions, Vivienne Mavel was the picture of a model noble lady, an avid reader who led a quiet, reclusive life. She seemed to possess no exploitable weaknesses. The only potentially useful detail was that her maid bore a striking resemblance to her. Yet, to Charlotte, such perfection was merely an intriguing challenge. Brimming with confidence, she thought, "If there are no weaknesses to exploit, then I shall simply create one myself." This time, I will personally step in to end this prospective marriage flawlessly. That night, within the quiet of her chamber, Charlotte suddenly awoke with a start, drenched in sweat, her breath coming in ragged gasps. She had just survived a horrific nightmare. In that dreadful dream, Alfonso collapsed before her eyes once again, crimson blood staining the ground. Anguish and despair engulfed her anew, echoing the horrors of her past life. No, this time, I will never let that happen again. Time was running short. She had to act swiftly. Alfonso's true fiancée had to be Adeline Levereuse, the woman he truly loved. If she could bring them together, guiding them to a joyful engagement and marriage, the doom haunting Alfonso would surely be broken. Charlotte's gaze turned resolute. I will do whatever it takes, solely for Alfonso's happiness. At the estate of House Mavel, a grand banquet was underway. Amidst the bustling crowd, Alfonso stood quietly, exuding the dignity and grace of a high-ranking noble. Yet, behind that calm exterior lay a deeply troubled mind. His aide, Serge, perceptive as ever, noticed something amiss. He softly asked, "Your Grace, are you feeling unwell?" Alfonso snapped back to reality, frowning slightly. Serge pointed out, "You have adjusted your cufflinks 5 times already." Alfonso sighed, letting his hands fall. "My mind isn't quite clear today." Ludwig offered comfort. "I know you're anxious about the engagement. Time is running out, and with previous attempts failing repeatedly, it's only natural you feel restless." Alfonso remained silent. Ludwig's words struck right at his greatest concern. This marriage was not merely a personal matter, but a mandatory move for House Edward. House Edward had sacrificed endlessly in wars on the Emperor's command. Thanks to that, imperial authority was solidified like never before. Yet in return, House Edward was left utterly drained. As a young patriarch who knew only the battlefield, Alfonso had yet to firmly establish his position within the house, leading to underlying discontent among his vassals. Marrying a powerful house was his only way to consolidate power and appease his faction. Furthermore, the deadline to submit premarital vows to the sanctuary was only 3 months away. If missed, he would have to wait another full year, a risk far too dangerous to take. Ludwig clenched his fist and asserted firmly, "Other knights might not grasp how delicate this situation is, but as the third son of House Barthélemy, I understand completely. I will always stand by your side." He spoke up enthusiastically. "But it seems everything will go smoothly this time, so your Grace needn't worry so much." "Things are progressing well, aren't they?" Alfonso replied. "Indeed. Very well." His gaze drifted absently over the crowd, perhaps a bit too well. Amidst the splendid gowns and smiling faces, a flash of vibrant red hair caught his eye. Charlotte Noha. There she stood, wearing a graceful smile, conversing with the other ladies. Unlike before, when he could never figure her out, this time, everything seemed plainly exposed. House Mavel was about to announce the wedding. If Charlotte truly intended to ruin this marriage, this was her only chance. "Your Grace." Ludwig's voice pulled Alfonso back to reality. "Why are you frowning like that? Please enjoy the party. Or shall we raise a toast to your upcoming marriage?" Alfonso suddenly realized that he had completely ignored him until now. He thought to himself, perhaps he was being overly paranoid. Rumors of his marriage must have reached Charlotte's ears. But what could she possibly do now? Everything was already settled. He raised his glass of red wine. Perhaps he had simply overreacted. Yet, at that exact moment, a familiar voice rang out. "Hello, Lady Mavel. Please spare me a moment of your time." Alfonso froze. He whipped around, and just as expected, Charlotte Noha was walking toward Vivian Mavel. "Why, Vivian Mavel?" He immediately handed his wine glass to Ludwig. "Ludwig, wait here for a moment. I have business to attend to." Ludwig called out in confusion, but Alfonso quickly slipped into the crowd. His cold, sharp gaze followed the red dress fading down the corridor. Of course, this could not be a coincidence. This time, I will surely expose your scheme. Charlotte Noha. Beneath the faint moonlight in the secluded garden, Charlotte crossed her arms, her sharp glare fixed on Vivian Mavel, who stood anxiously before her. "Are you holding a grudge just because we came out here? I thought we were having a pleasant conversation." The girl tried to maintain her composure. "Lady Noha, if it were anyone other than you, it certainly would have been." Charlotte smirked. "Oh dear. Do you mean to say I cannot enjoy a chat simply because of my reputation as the Villainess of Noha? Is that what you mean?" Charlotte's sharp words startled the young woman. Just as Charlotte had surmised, contrary to her initial impression of a cold, noble lady, the woman before her was exceedingly sharp-witted. Recalling the moment in the banquet hall, when Charlotte whispered into her ear, "If you do not want your secret exposed to everyone, follow me." The girl had turned pale and obediently followed. "I have no desire to oppose you, Lady Noha." The girl attempted to keep her tone conciliatory. "I do not understand why you are doing this, but there must be some misunderstanding here." "A misunderstanding?" Charlotte's eyes glinted with mockery. "Well, misunderstanding? That you are not the real Vivian? Or that Vivian is currently posing as your maid?" Upon hearing this, the girl's face drained of all color, her eyes widening in sheer terror. Charlotte pressed further. "Melia Rowan, the maid who has looked identical to Lady Mavell since childhood. I noticed that both of you share the exact same stature and features." Melia stammered, desperately trying to deny it. "Are you accusing me just because of that?" "Of course not. I checked everything quite thoroughly." Charlotte smiled with confidence. "Do you remember the poetry book I mentioned earlier? Rhetoric of the Seasons. What does that book have to do with anything?" "Actually, Rhetoric of the Seasons was a collection published by Lady Vivian 5 years ago." Charlotte's voice hardened. "I was there as well. Withered winter. Snowflakes dancing upon the magnolia's prayer. The moment the white frost turns to feed the butterflies. That is the opening line of the poem. If you truly are Lady Vivian, you should be able to recite the next few lines." Melia stood frozen, her entire body trembling. Charlotte sighed. "I was very curious, you see. The Lady Vivian Mavell, I know, is quite introverted. But today, at this banquet, you were unrecognizable, so lively and outgoing. For a shy Lady Vivian who loves books and literature, a marriage into high society or becoming a duchess would feel like a shackle, so she wanted to escape, even if it meant swapping identities with you." "Am I wrong?" Melia bowed her head, her hands gripping her skirt tightly, as tears began to stream down her face. "You are right. My lady did not want the life of a noble. But I yearned for that life, thanks to the Marquis of Mavell, who has always loved me like his own daughter." Charlotte's gaze darkened, her tone turning sharp. "So you intended to deceive everyone, and set your sights on Duke Edward?" Melia sobbed in a panic. "The Marquis and my lady have done nothing wrong. It was all my fault. Please keep this secret. You brought me out here because you want something, don't you?" "I will do anything. Please, I beg you." Charlotte spoke softly. "I only want one thing." Charlotte's eyes locked onto her. "Break off your engagement with Duke Edward." Melia looked up, bewildered, unable to believe her own ears. A secret scandalous enough to sink House Mavell. Yet the villainess of House Noha requested something so simple. Charlotte stepped closer leisurely, her words stripping bare the girl's psyche. The banquet was Melia's formal debut as Lady Vivian, meant to impress the high society. But Charlotte cared nothing for the maid's ambitions. Whether she traded identities or marriage vows, it was her own business. "I only care that the union with Duke Edward is cancelled." The silent mercy brought Melia to tears. She tearfully thanked the one she once feared as a threat. With the matter resolved, she mused that her restraint had yielded better results than expected. In her past life, 3 years later, a brilliant writer named Melia would stun the literary world. Initially, she only suspected Melia of ghostwriting for Lady Vivian, never imagining they had brazenly swapped places. The third move had been a complete success. Now, every obstacle had been cleared. The next candidate for the engagement would be Adeline. Once Alfonso met and fell for Adeline, they would find true happiness, and the death that haunted him would finally be released. But imagining him smiling brightly with another woman, an immense, hollow, aching void grew within Charlotte's heart. When he found happiness, where would her own destiny lie? She shook her head gently, quickly brushing away such weak thoughts. Her life had been on a countdown since she took the magic potion. There was no need to worry further. This was more than enough. With her task complete, it was time for this intruder to disappear. Charlotte smiled bitterly, turning to leave the banquet. But after a few steps, a voice low and frigid rang out from behind her. "Charlotte Noha." Charlotte jumped in surprise. That familiar voice made her heart ache sharply. She froze in place, slowly turning her head back. Amidst the darkness of the night, Alfonso stood there, his piercing gaze fixed upon her. She gripped her dress tightly, forcing herself to remain calm. Despite every attempt to avoid this, she had reached a dead end with no way out. Charlotte offered a strained smile. "Feigning ignorance. Your Grace, pardon my rudeness, as this is our first meeting. I am struggling to recall who you are." Alfonso's sharp gaze bored into her. "Silver hair like yours is quite rare, though your vibrant red hair is too. You ruined my marriage, causing endless trouble. And now you pretend not to know your victim? I truly do not understand what you mean." Charlotte acted unconcerned, shrugging as she moved to pass him. "If there is nothing else, I shall take my leave." Vivian. Alfonso blocked her path. I heard every word of your conversation with Milia. Charlotte went rigid, her heart hammering against her ribs. Summoning her usual arrogance, she turned to retort. Eavesdropping on ladies' conversations hardly seems like the behavior of the Empire's most eligible bachelor, does it? Alfonso remained unmoved. He calmly recited the poem she used to test Milia earlier. The withered winter, snowflakes drifting over magnolia prayers. The moment snowy foam feeds the butterflies. Those are lines from House Noha's works, not simple seasonal rhetoric. Charlotte sneered. A maid might be fooled. But a duke? Surely not, right? He smiled faintly. You are a very talented liar. I am truly impressed. You scripted this so meticulously that if you hadn't recited those verses, that maid certainly wouldn't have been exposed. I know full well you were behind the incidents with Olivier and Oboni. Every ruined engagement of mine bears your handiwork. Charlotte looked into Alfonso's eyes. That gaze no longer held the utter contempt of her past life, but rather a strange, piercing clarity. She pressed her lips together softly. Of course, this look, because he understood nothing about her at all, since she had been called out. There was no need to keep playing the part. Charlotte faced him squarely and nodded in acknowledgement. Indeed, it was my doing. So what of it? Do you intend to demand that I stop interfering with your engagements? Alfonso frowned. No, that is not enough. You have ruined all my prospective engagements, so you must take responsibility. Charlotte blinked in bewilderment and asked with a furrowed brow. Very well. What is it you want? It is nothing too difficult. It is also what you and your house have always desired. He looked at her steadfastly. Marry me. Please consider it. Lady Charlotte, the Duke's principle had always been crystal clear. The cunning will bring about their own demise. The selfish will destroy themselves, and the wicked will drag those around them into the mud. Refusing to deal with treacherous individuals, he had repeatedly turned down proposal after proposal, and yet that conviction began to waver from that moment on. In the quiet night, standing behind the foliage, the Duke overheard Charlotte's conversation with Milia. Milia looked at Charlotte hesitantly, her mind filled with doubt. I don't understand. Why go to such lengths just to break off these betrothals? Charlotte's gaze dimmed, heavy with hidden thoughts. I cannot speak of the details, but let's just say, it is all for the sake of love. The Duke, listening nearby, widened his eyes in surprise. Milia also stared wide-eyed and stunned. For love, you say? Charlotte teased. Why? Am I not allowed to love someone? Flustered, Milia waved her hands. Oh, no. It isn't like that. I was just curious who it might be. Charlotte's eyes softened at the thought of him. He's a good man, very tender-hearted, and deeply kind by nature, someone completely opposite to me. Hearing such heartfelt words, Milia exclaimed, My lady, you must truly love him. Yet, she still couldn't understand why Charlotte had to sabotage her engagement with Duke Edward. Charlotte smiled self-deprecatingly. The family's orders are absolute. I obey those orders by never marrying the one I love, ruining my own engagements, and striving not to harm a soul. Back to the present. He whispered, deep in thought. It would be perfect for a one-year contract marriage. Ludwig, walking beside him, started, Huh? What did you just say, Your Grace? Alfonso quickly brushed it off. It is nothing. Ludwig scrambled to keep up with his master's hurried pace, his expression tight with worry. Duke, this is truly insane. I thought it was a one-time occurrence, but now 3 engagements have been ruined in a row. Alfonso looked back. Do not worry. The 4th engagement will proceed smoothly. I have no intention of being rejected a 4th time. Ludwig's eyes lit up, hurrying to ask, Yes. Shall we proceed with the next on the list? No. Alfonso replied firmly. I have already chosen a candidate. Ludwig's face turned bright red in shock. My Lord Duke, who could have captured your heart? May I ask who it is? Stepping into the carriage, Alfonso turned back and calmly spoke the name. Charlotte Noha. The world seemed to crumble for Ludwig. His eyes widened, and he shrieked in absolute disbelief. Noha? My Lord Duke. Did I just hear that correctly? Alfonso gave a faint sigh. Enough. Let's depart. Leaving Ludwig crying out in despair. The carriage slowly rolled into the night. Sitting inside, Alfonso leaned back against the seat, resting his chin on his hand in thought, proposing to a woman who already has someone in her heart. She will surely come to despise me. Returning to that moment, Alfonso's sudden proposal left Charlotte stunned. Her eyes widened in shock. Wait, what did you just say? She hurried to regain her composure. You shouldn't joke about things like this. I'm afraid this is no joke at all. Realizing the situation was spiraling out of control, Charlotte grew flustered. Then we have nothing more to discuss. Do you mean to make me take responsibility? simply because I interfered with your engagements. If that bothers you so much, I apologize. I shall not trouble you again. However, Alfonso had no intention of letting her go. He calmly replied, I don't blame you. Isn't your family's command absolute after all? Or perhaps you've already fallen for someone else. Charlotte shuddered. He had truly overheard her entire private conversation with Melia. I never expected a noble Duke Edward would be so polite as to eavesdrop, and then speak of it so nonchalantly, Charlotte retorted sarcastically, before turning her back and walking away decisively. I will consider that you never proposed to me. And rest assured, I won't interfere with your future engagements ever again. Hurrying back to her room, Charlotte's heart hammered against her chest, as shock and dread consumed her mind. Why on earth would Alfonso propose to her? Everything was supposed to end after the next engagement. He was meant to meet and marry Adeline to live a happy life. Why is this tragic past repeating itself? If Alfonso marries me instead of Adeline, he will die again. And my sacrifice of life to turn back time will have been for nothing. No, I absolutely must stop this. Charlotte clenched her fists, her eyes burning with determination. To snuff out this proposal, the first thing she had to do was hide it from her father's eyes, because if he knew, he would force her to accept immediately. But in this scheming house Noha, who has enough influence to outsmart that cunning family head? Deep into the night, Charlotte walked quickly through the deserted corridor, stopping before an elegant wooden door to knock softly. The door slowly opened. He gave a faint smile. Oh, what a surprise. Charlotte, coming to see me at such a late hour. That was Quincy Noha, the rightful heir of House Noha, the true-born son of Duke Dominic Noha. In her past life, right up until Alfonso was put to death, Quincy was the only person Charlotte had truly loved and trusted, though her father brought home countless illegitimate children. None embodied the ruthless nature of House Noha like Quincy. People called her the Villainess of House Noha, but they were mistaken. The one truly pulling the strings behind it all was her brother. Quincy had taught her everything, instilling in her mind the belief that besides him, no one would ever truly love her. Had it not been for Alfonso's death, she might have remained forever blinded by that deceitful familial bond. Right now, standing inside Quincy's study, Charlotte quietly gazed at him. Quincy let out a sigh, reproaching her as he noticed her hesitation regarding the marriage to Duke Edward. Charlotte, do you even know what you're saying? Marrying Edward is an absolute necessity for House Noha. He adjusted his tie and nonchalantly continued, You were the one who accepted this marriage without a word of protest. Why are you making such a fuss now? If you don't like him, once you're married, you can simply eliminate him and remarry. Charlotte knitted her brows. So not only am I a villainess, must I also bear the title of a husband killer? Quincy offered a smile as he looked at her. Do you truly care about the whispers of those vermin? You have me. And you have House Noha. She clenched her fists, her sharp gaze piercing right through him. The tea you gave to father. He likes it very much because it eases his pain. But do you know what I found inside it? A poison that shows no reaction to silverware. Quincy's face instantly shifted. Stop. Charlotte, how did you know that? Seeing the panic plain on the face of the man who always thought himself a master manipulator, Charlotte smiled softly. How did she know? It was the Quincy of her past life, who, in his triumph after poisoning Alfonso, had revealed this secret to her with his own lips. He had ruthlessly declared that the poison killing her husband was the very same poison shortening their father's life day by day. Charlotte spoke softly, yet every word cut like a blade pressed against his throat. Don't worry. I have no intention of interfering with your plans. After all, we are family. You have me. And you have House Noha. Charlotte smiled. So, you help me keep Duke Edward's proposal a secret from father. Won't you, Quincy? Returning to the Edward estate after the Marquis of Mabel's banquet, Ludwig frantically gathered their closest knights. He revealed shocking news. Duke Alfonso intended to marry into the Noha family. Everyone in the room froze. What? The Noha family? Ludwig clutched his head in despair, lamenting that the Duke must have reached this insane decision because his engagements with Lady Maville kept failing. While everyone was in a panic, Jean, the calmest knight among them, spoke up. None of us dares to defy the Duke, right? Then what use is there in arguing? I will follow his wishes. Seeing this, the other knights reluctantly accepted the reality. Though filled with doubts, they resolved to follow Alfonso's orders, because the Noha family kept ignoring all the marriage letters. The aged Sarge had to deliver the letter himself. However, upon reaching the gates of the Noha estate, he was promptly turned away by the staff. Sorry, without a prior appointment, you cannot meet anyone. The guard's blunt refusal left Serge sighing in frustration. A close aide to the prestigious House Edward being cast out at someone else's doorstep. Serge walked away, sighing, unsure of how to explain this to Alfonso, or if the Duke truly had to marry into the Noha family. From the upper floor of the Noha estate, Charlotte quietly peered through the curtains at Serge's retreating back. She recognized him instantly. Serge Marshall, a truly kind and loyal soul. Memories of her past life surged in her mind when she first married into the cold Edward estate. Amidst everyone's cold gazes, Serge was the only one who smiled gently at her. But then, tragedy struck. After Alfonso passed away, Charlotte collapsed for a week and could not even attend her husband's funeral. Misunderstandings piled up, driving them further apart. When she desperately tried to seal Alfonso's body to resurrect him, that kind-hearted aide wept as he looked at her in despair. "My lady, you've gone mad." The look of rejection in Serge's eyes was a fatal blow, forcing Charlotte to bitterly realize how utterly alone she was in this world. It seemed like a fitting end for a villainess like her. At that thought, Charlotte gently let the curtains fall. She offered a faint, bitter smile. But this was enough for now. Alfonso had only about a month left. Even though she couldn't understand why he had suddenly proposed, she believed he would still pursue his marriage with Adeline. Her task now was to finish the Noha family's business and quietly wait for her own end. Charlotte looked at her reflection in the mirror, smiling bitterly to herself. Why was she making such a face? A person like her had no right to feel sorrow. That night, Charlotte appeared at the Elois family banquet, holding a glass of wine. She gritted her teeth, forced to listen to Rohan Elois's nonsensical bragging. "I don't mean to boast, but since you were curious, Lady Noha, I thought I'd share." Rohan gestured enthusiastically, his face beaming with pride. "Hunting Martin is quite the challenge, yet I brought it down with a single shot." Charlotte maintained a social smile, though she sighed inwardly in weariness. This repetitive bragging bored her to tears. Yet she could not leave. It was all her father's orders. The Noha family had to get close to the Alois clan, for according to her father's information, the elder matriarch of the Alois family held a legacy from the old dynasty. If that secret reached Emperor Benoit III and legitimized his rule, the sanctuary in the Noha family would surely collapse. Charlotte was here solely as bait to prevent that. Even as Rohan kept rambling on, Charlotte's mind drifted to Alfonso. She wondered if he and Adeline had already met at the Leverous banquet. In her past life's memories, Alfonso had truly been a good husband. Forced into an unwanted marriage with a wretch like her, he had always performed his duties with the utmost courtesy. Every month, he would send her incredibly valuable gifts, ranging from fine silks to jewelry and rare treasures. At first, she doubted his sincerity, dismissing them as fake and burning everything. But eventually, his gentle, persistent care wore down her walls. "Lady Noha, are you even listening to me?" Rohan's voice snapped her back to reality. Charlotte gave a bright smile. "Of course. Your story is quite fascinating." But inwardly, she felt weary. "So fascinating that I can't even focus?" Charlotte reassured herself. Well, looking on the bright side, at least I won't run into Alfonso here. She just needed to nod along and slip away. Yet, just as she prepared to leave, a wave of whispers swept through the banquet hall. Charlotte curiously looked down from the balcony, and her heart nearly stopped. Amidst the nobles stood a tall, imposing figure. Charlotte panicked. It's Alfonso. Why would he be here? He should have been with Adeline discussing their marriage. Why is he appearing now? Did the plan go wrong somewhere? Noticing Charlotte's sway, Rohan Alois hurried over. "Lady Noha, are you all right?" Charlotte feigned exhaustion. "I'm not feeling very well," Rohan eagerly offered. "Then let me take you inside to rest." "There's no need. I can manage on." Charlotte's foot faltered before she could finish, nearly collapsing to the floor. Rohan quickly caught her. "Be careful, my lady. It would be improper to let you go alone." "Do you want to make a brute of me?" Charlotte frowned slightly. Rohan Alois was always being excessively attentive to her, and involvement with him only invited trouble. But today was truly a miserable day. Her ankle throbbed with pain, and refusing him now would only cause an unnecessary scene. Charlotte nodded. "Very well. I shall accept your help," Rohan replied with pride. "It is my pleasure." Charlotte reassured herself. The most important thing was to avoid Alfonso at all costs. Just hide inside for a while, then return to the carriage, and everything would be fine. She only hoped her bad luck would end here. Yet, in another corner of the hall, Alfonso was frantically searching for that red-haired figure. Ludwig approached, bowing to apologize. "My apologies, Your Grace." The Noha family carriage is still outside, but no matter how we search, we cannot find her. Alfonso fell silent. It is fine. I expected as much. His eyes darkened. Searching everywhere and finding nothing was no coincidence. She loathed him. He knew that, but she had promised to stop interfering in his engagements. And yet now, had she really gone to such lengths just to avoid him? This reminded him of the meeting hours ago at House Edward. Back then, Serge had just returned after being flatly turned away by House Noha. The letter we sent was not delivered, and the head of House Noha was absent. It seems no one there wishes to receive us. In contrast to Alfonso's calm, the knights and vassals in the room erupted in anger. The attitude of House Noha had clearly crossed the line. They were the ones who sent the proposal first, yet now they blatantly shut Duke Edward out. Even if he was refused once, this was still an unacceptable insult. Amidst the general uproar, Ludwig mustered his courage to speak. Please forgive my impertinence, Your Grace. My lord, but I must ask, is there a particular reason you are determined to marry into the Noha family? They are surely laughing at House Edward right now. As a loyal vassal, I cannot accept this situation. Please tell us why you decided to marry a Noha. Alfonso rested his chin on his hand in silence, his pensive gaze sweeping over the vassals, struggling to find an answer. Princess Sophia burst into the room, her face etched with shock and fury. Did I hear that right? Are you pursuing a member of the Noha family? You must explain what is happening. Alfonso sighed softly, rubbing his temples. You heard correctly, Sophia. Not long ago, I proposed to Charlotte Noha. Sophia shrieked in disbelief. What? Why would you do that? This does not concern you, so do not interfere. Sophia pouted in frustration. I'm not interfering. I am merely worried for my naive older brother. Do you know Charlotte Noha is involved with the heir of House Alois? Alfonso froze. What? Rohan Alois has been bragging incessantly about his connection with Charlotte. Sophia continued, pouring cold water on him. Rumor has it he intends to confess at the Eloise banquet tonight. The Noha family is investing heavily in that house. So instead of clinging to a Noha, you should find someone else. Alfonso stopped listening. He turned to his aide, Serge. When is the Eloise banquet? Serge replied immediately. My lord, it is tonight. We have already received the invitation. Sophia gasped in panic. Are you planning to go to the Eloise banquet? You promised to attend the Lover's banquet with me. Alfonso stood up decisively. If we leave early, we can attend both events. Hurry up. We can still make it to the Eloise banquet. Ignoring Princess Sophia's complaints, Alfonso hurried to the Eloise banquet in hopes of finding Charlotte. However, despite searching every corner of the hall, he couldn't find that familiar red-haired figure. Pacing through the opulent corridors, Alfonso's heart felt heavy. Why must she avoid him so? Could it be because of the one she loves? A decade of battlefield victories had cemented the Emperor's power, but weakened his own House Edward. As head of the house, he had a duty to resolve this crisis through a political marriage. But what if Charlotte's heart belonged to the heir of the Elois family? A splitting headache struck Alfonso, for if his pursuit only became an obstacle to her love, he wished they could at least speak properly. Lost in thought, a sharp, loud sound suddenly echoed, followed by a voice shouting insults. You bitch of House Noha. Alfonso spun around, startled. Earlier, Rohan had led Charlotte into a secluded room. Seeing they were away from the crowd, Charlotte pulled her arm back, maintaining a firm distance. Thank you for your help, but it is only a minor sprain. Could you call my maid here, please? Rohan smirked, closing in with a calculating look. Isn't it better to be escorted by a gentleman? I will take you home. That won't be necessary. Charlotte tried to back away, but Rohan grabbed her waist and pulled her tight. His eyes glinted with desire. In return, will you date me, lady? A relationship leading to marriage. Charlotte pushed him away with all her might. Rohan looked confused. Lady Noha, you brought me here because you like me too, don't you? Charlotte replied in an ice-cold tone. I made it clear from the start that I wanted to go alone. You were the one who insisted on helping. And did you truly think I fancied you? That was entirely a delusional, one-sided misunderstanding on your part. The harsh rejection dealt a painful blow to Rohan's pride. Consumed by rage and humiliation, he raised his hand and slapped Charlotte hard across the cheek. The blow was so violent that Charlotte staggered, her fiery red hair falling loose. You were playing with me. You feign ignorance, but I know the truth. You seduced Lord Dietrich under the pretext of helping him, and then dumped and humiliated him. Didn't you? Charlotte slowly raised her hand to stroke the crimson mark on her cheek. She let out a scoff. Playing with you? Me? Charlotte's razor-sharp eyes locked onto Rohan. making him shiver in fear. Her voice was calm, dripping with sarcasm. Dietrich? Hearing that name brings back memories. He was just like you, an arrogant braggart. He claimed he would take his own life if I refused to meet him, so I kindly accepted his request. Yet before long, he was crawling at my feet, weeping and begging for my forgiveness. Isn't that amusing? Calmly, Charlotte unbuttoned her white glove, slowly pulling it off, revealing her slender hand. And do you know how to strike someone properly? If you use your palm, you should take off your glove and remove all metal from your person. Otherwise, before Rohan could react, Charlotte delivered a thunderous slap across his face. It's going to hurt terribly. Charlotte raised the sharp object she had hidden behind her back, only to be caught mid-air by a firm grip. Startled, she raised her head, her eyes widening in shock. Stop this. Lady Noha, his deep voice resonated. Rohan, weeping on the floor as he clutched his face, seized the moment and scrambled up to hurl an accusation. Your Grace, you came at just the right time. This wicked woman. Silence. Rohan Alois. Alfonso's countenance darkened grimly, his eyes bored intently into Rohan, seething with absolute rage. I heard every word. Do you believe you have the right to strike a lady simply because she rejected your suit? Have you no shame left? Rohan's face turned instantly pale, stammering incoherently. Alfonso threatened him coldly. Surely you wouldn't want Lady Alois to hear of this disgraceful farce. If a single foolish rumor reaches my ears regarding today, I will not remain silent. Crushed beneath the Duke's formidable aura, Rohan cowered and retreated, not daring to utter another word. Having dealt with the despicable coward, Alfonso spoke. So you kept avoiding me just to deal with men like him on your own? Charlotte lowered her head slightly, evading his gaze. If you overheard us at Marquise Mavel's estate, you must know that my family's orders are absolute. Alfonso pressed further. Was dodging my proposal also done under your family's orders? Charlotte replied, that was entirely my own decision. I already told you that my heart belongs to someone else. Alfonso countered. And that person certainly isn't that fool. Slowly raising his hand, he gently pressed a warm handkerchief to the red bruise on her cheek. That unexpected tenderness made Charlotte's heart skip a beat. Alfonso spoke softly. Lady Noha, I came here today to propose to you once more. Charlotte was bewildered, even knowing that I love another. It is precisely because I know that I am proposing to you. Alfonso looked directly into her eyes and delivered his proposal. Charlotte Noha, enter into a 1-year contract marriage with me. Charlotte looked at Alfonso with suspicion. A contract marriage? Alfonso nodded calmly. Just as you heard, we will marry for 1 year, and then divorce. Of course, there will be no true marital relations between us. Charlotte frowned. I don't see why I should do that, especially with someone who keeps rejecting my marriage proposals. Aren't you under immense pressure from your family? If you don't marry me, you will face the consequences, won't you? Changing your name to Edward will set you free from House Noha's control. Charlotte turned away. That is my concern alone. But I am not wrong. Am I? Alfonso continued to persuade her. The alimony after 1 year will be a substantial sum. You will be free to marry whom you love once the contract ends. Charlotte tightly gripped her skirt. Weighing the options, a year of fake marriage for freedom and a fortune sounded like a miracle, but she couldn't believe this arrogant duke came up with such a lenient plan. Charlotte pressed him. Whose idea was this? Your vassals? Alfonso replied firmly. It was my own idea. Charlotte was stunned. What? You haven't discussed this with anyone? I cannot share private matters like this with anyone, except the person I wish to propose to. Alfonso's blunt words made Charlotte's heart skip a beat. She stared at him intently. His serious, unyielding expression was identical to the one in her past life. Yet why did it feel so unfamiliar now? The contempt that once filled his eyes in her past life was entirely gone. Alfonso crossed his arms. So that you are clear? I do not intend to praise you. Charlotte was taken aback. Do you really say such things to the person you just proposed to? I am merely being honest. Alfonso remained composed. Haven't you consistently ruined my previous engagements? I won't deny it. I'm no saint. In fact, villain is a far more accurate description. Alfonso nodded in agreement. Cunning, shameless, and never one to shy away from violence. Charlotte retorted in frustration. You haven't forgotten that you just proposed to someone like me, have you? A marriage proposal and a character assessment are two very different things. Alfonso replied without a hint of hesitation. I once thought you weren't worth my concern, but I've changed my mind. I believe you're the only one who can solve my problem. Charlotte started. A problem? Beyond the marriage, what else could you possibly need? It's a secret I can share with no one, save for my own family. Accept my proposal, and you shall know the truth. Charlotte found herself at a crossroads. In her past life, she had never heard of Alfonso facing any such troubles. She had always believed that by bringing him and Adeline together, he would remain safe and happy. But if she refused now, what would become of this mysterious burden of his? Would her entire plan to save him collapse? Seeing her hesitation, Alfonso spoke softly. If you have no desire for this marriage to last, isn't a 1-year contract followed by your freedom the perfect solution? Charlotte lowered her head, her breath hitching in her chest. She knew. There was no turning back. She was consumed by an agonizing internal struggle. Accepting his proposal could be the key to uncovering his secret and saving his life. Yet, if during this year, Shio House Noha inadvertently drove him to his demise once more, her sacrifice to turn back time would be in vain. Watching her face drain of color and her hands tremble, Alfonso sighed gently, taking a step back. If this truly troubles you, I will not force you. It was, after all, only a proposal. When you have finished thinking, give me your answer. With those words, he turned to walk away. If she could not discover the trouble Alfonso was facing right now, then the tragedy could never be resolved. Without a second thought, Charlotte rushed forward, reaching out to grab the hem of his coat. Wait? Alfonso. Alfonso froze, turning around in surprise to look at her. At that exact moment, Charlotte realized with shock that she had addressed the noble duke by his given name, a complete breach of etiquette with someone she had only just met. Flustered, she let go of his coat, trying to regain her composure. Forgive me? Or are you angry because I spoke your name? If so, you should call me by my name as well. Charlotte. He looked deeply into her eyes and calmly repeated, Very well. Let us address each other like that then. Charlotte. His cool composure made Charlotte feel even more flustered. She had expected him to be embarrassed, yet she was the one backed into a corner. Alfonso gazed intently at her, asking softly, What is it that you want from me? Charlotte hesitated, her cheeks burning as if on fire. I have something to ask. You see, seeing her blushing, flustered expression, Alfonso felt a slight wave of surprise. A strange sensation washed over Charlotte once more. Why was he looking at her with those eyes? In this natural intimacy, they seemed no different than reunited former lovers. So, what do you wish to say? Alfonso prompted her as she continued to hesitate. Are you listening to me? Charlotte spoke up hesitantly. Just as she was about to ask, rushing footsteps echoed through the hall. Quincy stepped into the room leisurely. Charlotte, so this is where you were. I have been searching for you everywhere. Charlotte was surprised. Quincy, what are you doing here? I thought you were with Lady Alois. Things were settled, so I came to find you. But I never expected to encounter Duke Edward here. Quincy turned his gaze toward Alfonso, his tone polite, yet his eyes filled with suspicion. Since he previously rejected the Noha family's proposal so bluntly, I was worried you might harbor a grudge against us. Hearing you say that, I am glad to see my concerns were misplaced. Alfonso stood before him, finding Quincy's sudden concern strangely unsettling. He responded calmly. I only declined due to a prior commitment. I harbor no ill will whatsoever. Quincy offered a faint smile, continuing to probe. Given how firmly you rejected it back then, surely your stance hasn't changed, has it? You are not the type to change your mind so easily. Alfonso frowned slightly. Instead of dismissing the question, he left it hanging with a cryptic remark. I hope you won't jump to conclusions too quickly. It is not impossible for me to change my mind. Alfonso's reply left Quincy momentarily stunned. Since this was an unexpected meeting, I shall take my leave now. Alfonso bowed politely. It would be rude to interrupt your sibling reunion any longer. Until we meet again. Lady Noha. Walking through the quiet corridor, Alfonso fell into deep thought. That woman, Charlotte Noha, truly is a strange creature. At the Mavil estate, she kept frowning and swore she wouldn't interfere in his engagement again. Yet just moments ago, she seemed like a completely different person. The way she looked so conflicted, her eyes filled with unspoken burdens as she asked, Do you hate me too? The words continued to haunt Alfonso's mind. He recalled the words she had whispered to that young lady. Let's just say, it was all for love. Hearing such a passionate confession of love, coupled with the heartbreaking solitude in her eyes, he realized Charlotte truly loved someone deeply. If that were true, she would willingly use House Edward for a year, and then leave without regret to pursue her own love. That would be immensely beneficial to him. Faking a marriage for a year with someone as meticulous as Charlotte, the alliance between House Noha and House Edward would not only solve his problem, but a divorce after a year wouldn't raise any suspicion among high society. It was a win-win move for both of them. Indeed, that would be more than enough. Yet, just as Alfonso thought he had calculated everything, A warning from distant memories suddenly surged forth, weighing on his mind like a dark shadow. Don't let anyone get close to you. Alfonso, you must remember that. Alfonso slammed his hand onto the balcony railing, his breathing turning rapid and heavy. Why at a time like this would that memory return? Inside the carriage rolling through the late night, Quincy looked at his sister, probing her with a sharp gaze. Why on earth were you with Duke Edward? Tell me, Charlotte. Charlotte let out a soft sigh. I already told you. It was just a coincidence. The only thing we talked about was the marriage proposal. Quincy wondered aloud. He really is strange. Does he not want to get married? I'm curious about that myself. Quincy offered a relieved smile. Either way, what's done is done. I must say, I'm glad you decided against marrying. Back at the dinner party, when you said you were getting married, I was worried sick. I never wanted that to happen in the first place. Charlotte frowned at her brother. Weren't you the one who said marriage was mandatory for House Noha? House Noha's position is indeed weakening. So marriage is necessary. But that is not the only path. Quincy's tone turned gentle. Edward doesn't suit you at all, Charlotte, he said, his voice slow and deliberate. Don't marry him, Charlotte. Do you remember what I told you before? That only the two of us are the true Noha, and the Noha family exists only for us, Charlotte whispered, finishing his sentence. Of course I remember. How could I ever forget? Childhood memories flooded back into her mind. Back then, Quincy whispered sweet promises that he would make her invaluable, and that only the two of them held the true Noha name. And then, their father's other children, one by one, vanished without a trace. She had lived her whole life believing in that one truth. Quincy looked at her, nodding in satisfaction. It might be selfish, but I hope you stay with the Noha family as long as possible. You are the one who fits in here best. Charlotte smiled bitterly to herself. Indeed, filth always belongs with filth, Quincy added. Right. Father will be home tomorrow. Perhaps you should go away for a while. If he sees you, he will surely press you about the marriage to Edward. Charlotte paused, then nodded. All right, I will be away for a few days. The carriage rolled on through the cold, dark night. Sitting inside, Charlotte stared out the window. She thought she had broken free from their manipulations. So why did this hollow hope for family still cling to her? No. She could not deceive herself any longer. She knew her father would never let this go. But she could not lose Alfonso again because of her own selfishness. In a dim, dark room, Rohan Alois sat tied to a chair, weeping and begging. His face turned ghastly pale with fear. I'm innocent, I swear. She was the one who seduced me first. That slap was just a misunderstanding. If you listen to him, you're surely mistaken. Quincy crossed his legs languidly, his voice cold and merciless. I was curious to see how you'd spin your lies, but it turns out it's not even worth hearing. Rohan Alois, you're the one who is truly mistaken. Charlotte has never said a single word about you. Rohan looked up, trembling. Then, why? Why am I being punished? Quincy wore a chilling smile. Because I am her brother. I must settle what she hasn't bothered to address. Our Charlotte is far too soft-hearted. Though it would be easier to just kill off the pests, she never takes a life for such trivial reasons. Therefore, I have no choice but to protect my fragile little sister, Quincy said calmly. Handle him just like Dietrich. I'll give you two choices. Either pay the price and hold your tongue, or gamble with your life. Panic filled Rohan's eyes. He recalled someone once saying, Rohan Alois, have you heard the story of Dietrich I once shared? He was attacked and lost a hand. The memories were hazy, so the culprit remained unknown. Without his hand, his path to advancement was ruined. Such a pity, isn't it? Rohan went stiff, his body freezing in terror, realizing the devil before him was the one who crippled Dietrich. He nodded frantically in fear, tears streaming past his gag, begging in utter desperation. Quincy smiled. Don't be so anxious. It won't take long. Do enjoy your time. I shall send my own greetings to Lady Alois. Ignoring the wails of agony behind him, his gaze settled on a familiar figure waiting for him. Now, it is your turn to speak. Seeing you here, I assume your assigned task is complete, right? Sylvia. Sylvia bowed her head low, her voice filled with submission. The matter regarding Duke Edward has been handled exactly as you instructed. He turned the pages slowly, calculating silently. Charlotte might not know it, but this situation was exactly what he had been waiting for. Unable to defy her father, she had finally been forced to seek his help. He still remembered the moment Charlotte found him. As she spoke, So, Quincy, will you still help me today? But then, do you hate me as well? Listening from behind the door. He was completely stunned. He had never heard such a tone from Charlotte before. The woman known as the Villainess of House Noha was now speaking with a trembling voice, riddled with the fear of being loathed. He knew, if Charlotte discovered he was the one pulling the strings, she would surely hate him forever. But things had gone too far. There was no turning back. The next day, in Duke Edward's study, the atmosphere was stifling. His vassals reported the treasures meant for the emperor had vanished without a trace, and all clues pointed toward House Noha. Furthermore, Serge had once again been turned away by the Noha family. Alfonso rested his head on his hand, lost in thought. The one-year contract marriage offer with a massive compensation should have been tempting. Why did Charlotte refuse so resolutely? He suddenly understood. Despite the immense pressure from her family, or the label of a villainess, if she wished to remain faithful to the one she loved, then her refusal was entirely understandable. Ludwig pleaded, "Your Grace, I beg you, please reconsider. The Noha family's stance is all too clear. If this persists, it will only stain the honor of House Edward." Alfonso interrupted. "Enough. I understand. This is a heartfelt plea from me." Ludwig insisted. "No matter how you look at it, the Noha family—" "I said I understand." "Ludwig Bartholomew," Alfonso growled, silencing his subordinates' entreaties. He wearily closed his eyes. The logic that served him well on the battlefield held no power in human relationships. He realized how arrogant he had been to think a mere contract could bind her. Alfonso sighed. "Very well. I admit this marriage proposal was a mistake. I shall proceed with marriage negotiations with the Leverous family instead." The office erupted in joy. Ludwig and the vassals cheered, embracing one another in celebration. Under Alfonso's direction, the engagement with the Leverous family proceeded smoothly. Yet, fate had a way of intervening. When Alfonso arrived in Devane to negotiate the marriage with the Leverous family, he suddenly stopped in his tracks. His heart skipped a beat as he caught sight of a familiar figure standing amidst the flowers. Charlotte. Alfonso breathed in astonishment. Charlotte turned around, both caught in a moment of sheer surprise. An unexpected reunion neither had foreseen. There were two reasons Charlotte had chosen to visit Devane. First, the breathtaking beauty of Devane Lake in the spring. But the second stemmed from a bitter memory of her past life. In the cold halls of the Edward estate in her previous life, Charlotte had asked jealously as she watched Alfonso pack, "Are you headed to Devane, Alfonso?" Alfonso replied calmly, "Indeed, I have business to discuss with Lady Adeline." Charlotte pressed him. "Couldn't you discuss that in the capital? Lady Adeline is in poor health. She stays at the Devane villa each time the season changes. It is not far, so it's best if I go there myself." His logical explanation only fueled the resentment burning in Charlotte's heart. "Fine, go then. But while you're away, may I invite Mr. Noel to the estate?" Alfonso's expression darkened instantly. "I already told you to stay away from him. He is of no use to you," Charlotte retorted unfazed. "That is for me to decide. Your position is tied directly to the honor of House Edward. Don't worry so much," Charlotte quipped. "After all, you're preparing to see another woman yourself." Alfonso's hand clenched into a fist. He provoked her. "Are you jealous because I love Lady Adeline?" Unable to contain herself any longer, she slammed her hand against the wall. "I have no intention of living with a concubine in this house. Not even in the slightest. So you had better never mention that woman's name before me again." Alfonso drew a deep breath. "I understand. But I absolutely will not allow you to see Noel." Charlotte smiled faintly. "Oh? And what if I ignore your order and meet him anyway? Do you intend to kill me?" "No." Alfonso locked eyes with her, every word ice cold. "For the honor of House Edward, I will challenge Noel to a duel to the death." His resolute reply made Charlotte laugh. Their marriage of deceit turned out to be quite ridiculous. Walking along the stone bridge over the shimmering lake, Charlotte clutched her dress tightly. A bitter ache swelled within her. Back when she was with Alfonso, she had acted like a fool. But what she truly wanted to tell him was that she loved this lake too, loved the spring air of Devane, and wanted to watch the petals drift on the water with him. However, she quickly cast aside those fragile emotions. Her main goal in coming here was to meet Adeline, and she had accomplished it. Meeting Adeline helped steady her wavering resolve. She must not forget why she turned back time. Upon returning to the capital, she would certainly write a letter declining Alfonso's proposal. Lost in her thoughts, a bright voice suddenly rang out from behind her. "Oh, Lily." Charlotte started and turned around. Before her eyes, Adeline was waving excitedly. What left Charlotte completely frozen was the man standing right beside Adeline, Alfonso. Charlotte's heart hammered against her chest. Why were the two of them here together? Alfonso regained his composure, turning to ask Adeline with a detached tone, "Lady Leverous, do you know this person?" Adeline nodded and replied, Yes, she is a friend I happened to meet on the way. Her name is Lily. Charlotte swallowed hard, immediately acting her part before Adeline. That's right. Charlotte turned to look at Alfonso, deliberately asking, Then is the gentleman with you your fiancé? Adeline panicked and waved her hands frantically. Oh no, I'm still single. I mean, my father is inside, and this duke is just a guest visiting my father. Charlotte curled her lip, understanding the situation. So their marriage arrangement hadn't officially begun. If so, she shouldn't stay and be a third wheel. I apologize for the intrusion. Charlotte offered a polite smile and turned to leave. If you'll excuse me. However, Alfonso let out a sarcastic remark. To ask a question like that, knowing I'm still single, you're quite the mischievous one, aren't you? Charlotte started and turned back. Adeline looked at them both confused. Huh? Do you two already know each other? I thought we had spoken quite enough already. Alfonso crossed his arms, his eyes sharp as he gazed at Charlotte. I didn't expect you to pretend you didn't know me. My lady. Charlotte paled, a wave of panic washing over her. What could he possibly be angry about? Did she do something wrong? Alfonso stepped closer to her, looking straight into her wavering eyes. Did I say something wrong? Lily, didn't I already propose to you? This was truly the worst-case scenario. Charlotte clenched her fists, sinking into a state of panic. Alfonso's sudden mention of a proposal before Adeline made the kind girl blush and slip away, leaving them completely alone. Once inside the private room, Charlotte could no longer contain her fury. What exactly are you thinking? Leaving Lady Adeline to drag me in here like this? Alfonso ignored her and asked, What is with that fake name? That has nothing to do with you. Are you sure about that? Besides, you needn't bother interfering with the marriage arrangements between me and Lady Adeline. Charlotte stammered. It's not like that. Alfonso continued. Then why did you use a fake name to meet Lady Adeline? Explain yourself. Charlotte was left speechless. How could she explain that in the future? He would fall for Adeline, and that she was merely struggling with feelings shaken by his current proposal. That isn't important right now. Charlotte brushed it off. Your actions will only make securing the marriage to Lady Adeline much more difficult. Alfonso's gaze turned icy. Why are you so bothered by that? That is not for someone who ruined my proposal to worry about. You took my jewelry and have been deliberately avoiding me. Charlotte looked blankly at him. What? What are you talking about? Alfonso curled his lip. Are you feigning ignorance? You send men to turn Serge away every single day. Charlotte trembled. Quincy. This must be Quincy's doing. She had informants stationed at the estate to report back. Yet not a single message reached her. Charlotte panicked. I am sorry. I truly knew nothing of this. Let me explain. The truth is, before she could finish, the door swung open with a violent crash. Serge rushed in. There is a crisis, Your Grace. To recover the Precious Stone seized by the Noha family, we contacted the Desoli family, but they are demanding an exorbitant price. Serge froze, eyes widening as he saw Charlotte standing beside Alfonso. The Precious Stone, a shimmering magical crystal, a rare mineral that turns black when refined. It was the ultimate material for forging the legendary blades of the old dynasty. Though the techniques are lost, Precio remains a supreme tribute for the royal family, and the Desoli family is the primary supplier. And the Noha family, under Quincy's command, had stolen this vital tribute from Alfonso. Realizing the dire consequences of Quincy's actions, Charlotte suddenly spoke up. Let me handle this. Serge turned in shock. Do you mean you can retrieve the Precious Stone? Charlotte tightened her grip on her dress. This never happened in my previous life. She hesitated. I cannot guarantee success, for Quincy is not always willing to cooperate. It won't be easy, but I will find a way. Alfonso coldly interrupted. That won't be necessary. He looked at her with an indifferent gaze. Time is running out, and I must quickly resume marriage negotiations with Lady Adeline. The marriage proposal is not a matter you should be involved in. After saying that, Alfonso turned away and walked off. I will handle the negotiations. Take care, Charlotte. Watching his resolute back recede into the distance, Charlotte's heart tightened. The haunting memories of her past life welled up within her. What if she ended up ruining his life once again? Yet, if she stood by and did nothing, the tragedy would only repeat itself. Wait, Alfonso. Charlotte lunged forward, grabbing hold of his arm. Alfonso came to a sudden halt. Charlotte poured all her sincerity into her gaze. I cannot just stand by and watch. It is true that I shouldn't intervene, but precisely because I once stood in your way, I want to help you even more now. Alfonso yielded slightly. Do you have a plan? I have about 4 plans. Alfonso immediately added a condition. They must not include assassination, threats, or any criminal activity whatsoever. Charlotte flushed in embarrassment. Then I have no plans at all. Alfonso stood frozen, giving her a look of utter speechlessness. Let's just pretend I didn't hear that. Charlotte laughed. I am only joking. Just leave this matter to me. Alfonso, I truly have an idea. Stepping into the magnificent banquet hall, Charlotte immediately became the center of whispered gossip. They mocked her as the villainess of House Noha, buzzing about the rat incident at House Olivier and Rohan and Alois's recent misfortune. That familiar pattern of whispers didn't bother her at all, because moments later, a crowd of ladies surrounded her, showering her with praise for her gorgeous gown. Your dress is so beautiful, Lady Noha. This off-the-shoulder design is truly daring. I simply cannot take my eyes off it. Charlotte offered a charming smile and replied composedly. This is a design by Lady Priscilla. Currently all the rage in the capital. This staged admiration was exactly as Charlotte had calculated. Wearing the mantle of a fashion icon, she could easily approach anyone she chose. Alfonso had only about a week left of grace, and she had to resolve this mess within 3 days. Her target this time was Lisali de Soli, daughter of the family that held the supply of precious stones. Seeing Lisali hesitating, nervous about her off-the-shoulder dress for fear of her mother's scolding, Charlotte skillfully pulled the black silk shawl from her own shoulder and draped it like this, covering the shoulders naturally while remaining perfectly elegant. The young lady's eyes lit up with delight. Oh, it truly is exquisite. Truly, as expected of Lady Noha. Lisali, feeling less bashful, covered her face. Thank you for attending the banquet. In return, I would like to invite you to a private tea party at my estate tomorrow. What do you think? Charlotte smiled with satisfaction. The fish had taken the bait. A private tea party invitation was the golden ticket to infiltrate the de Soli family. I very much look forward to Lady de Soli's tea party, Charlotte answered gently, already preparing to cast the net. That night, in the study of Duke Edward, Alfonso asked his aide pensively, How is the investigation into the Prezio mine I requested yesterday? Ludwig reported respectfully. We discovered the young heir of de Soli has been secretly contacting Noha agents. There is certainly a connection between them. Alfonso's eyes darkened. Just as I thought. Ludwig hesitated, then gathered the courage to speak. Your Grace, I must confess I am not pleased with Lady Charlotte's offer. She is not to be trusted. Back in the private room, she acted as if she knew nothing of the recent situation. Do you truly believe her? Why must we drag an outsider into troubles we can solve ourselves? Edward looked at him coldly. Ludwig Bartholomew, I understand your suspicion, but that question has crossed the line. Sensing the menace in his master's voice, Ludwig faltered for a moment. Yet, for the sake of the duchy, he bowed his head firmly. I understand, but I am prepared to accept any punishment. Please enlighten me. Why must we trust Charlotte Noha? The Duke sighed wearily. You truly are stubborn. There are 3 reasons I entrusted this to her. First, I trust Charlotte in this matter. If she were involved in that scheme, she wouldn't risk heading to the dangerous de Soli region. Second, her arguments are entirely persuasive. In our current chaotic situation, sitting at a negotiation table is meaningless. And finally, no one is better suited for this than her. Ludwig remained unconvinced, pressing further. But what if Charlotte chooses to side with the Noha family? That will not happen. Why are you so certain? Alfonso's gaze turned deep. Because Charlotte Noha needs something from me. Memories of last night flooded his mind. Charlotte had made a straightforward request. Please explain the situation to Adeline. Tell her your passwords no longer hold meaning. Only then can a marriage proposal proceed smoothly. He pinched the bridge of his nose warily. Have you forgotten? I proposed to you myself. I need you. Charlotte replied firmly. I know, Alfonso, but marriage should not be an obligation. Marry someone you truly desire, someone who can bring you happiness. Alfonso clenched his fist. Happiness, you say? Do you think Adeline could make me happy? Of course. She is far better for you than I am. Charlotte turned to leave. I trust you, and now I must take my leave. I hope to hear good news next time. Alfonso called out in a hurry. Wait. Charlotte stopped and glanced back. Under the pale moonlight, she offered a smile, radiant yet etched with sorrow. Speaking from the depths of her heart, Alfonso, I truly wish for your happiness. With that, her blue dress fluttered as she turned, vanishing into the corridor. Recalling the moment, his heart pounded with restless agitation. What could that woman be thinking? Her gaze and smile were so sincere that anyone would be moved. Yet, he could not grasp the true motive hidden beneath. Alfonso fell into deep thought. That red hue, as vibrant and bewitching as she was. He told himself, at the very least, she would not betray him. Ludwig asked with hesitation, Your Grace, what if What if Charlotte Noha fails to retrieve the precious stone? Alfonso sighed softly. That will not happen. I fear we have underestimated her. I believe in the ruthlessness of Charlotte Noha. She is the type to do whatever it takes to achieve her goals. Ludwig protested with concern. If so, shouldn't we stay as far away from her as possible? Alfonso nodded. That is true. But, he recalled her words, just pretend it's all for the sake of love. Alfonso walked toward the window, gazing into the quiet night. She promised me she would resolve this without resorting to any crimes. Ludwig stared at his master. Do you truly believe that promise? Alfonso turned away. No, I do not. I'm only testing her. Let's hope she keeps her word. Approaching Lisalie de Sully seemed like mere flattery, but it was actually a subtle psychological trap laid by Charlotte. Born with silver spoons, noble ladies often react in two ways. Either they want to dominate others, or they engage in constant competition. If they seek to dominate, things are much easier to handle, and if they want to compete, it becomes even easier. People only measure themselves against their own social standing. So, instead of fighting an outsider like Charlotte, they turn their envy toward one another. The moment one starts showing off, envy compels them all to inflate their own status. And once a stone is tossed into those rippling waters, the one who tries hardest to stand out, the most inflated, will suffer the most humiliating downfall. Everything unfolded exactly as Charlotte had scripted. During her second visit, the de Sully tea party descended into total chaos. Lisalie, refusing to be overshadowed by Charlotte's presence, donned so much gaudy jewelry she looked ridiculous. This inadvertently bruised the pride of the other ladies, igniting a fiery quarrel. Lisalie screamed in fury. Do you dare call me nouveau riche? Do you want to be ostracized from high society? Another lady snapped her fan and shot back. Ha, you were the one who called my jewelry cheap first. Exactly. Who called me a jewelry girl first anyway? The ladies instantly turned against Lisalie, spitting biting insults. Dressing so garishly is just an eyesore. Flaunting such wealth is truly tacky. Excuse me, but I will no longer be attending this tea party. With that, they stood up in unison and walked away, leaving Lisalie frozen in place. Watching their backs fade away, Lisalie turned beet red with rage, her hands clenching her skirt into a crumpled mess. Those despicable people. They were happy to take jewelry from my house, and now they dare call me nouveau riche? Lisalie cried out in resentment, yet when it came to Charlotte Noha, they didn't dare utter a single word. That is true. A calm, gentle voice echoed from right behind her. Lisalie jumped and turned around in a start. Charlotte was wearing a radiant smile. They are truly terrible, aren't they? Lisalie was stunned. Charlotte Noha, you. How long have you been standing there? Her prey was now completely isolated and panicked. Watching Lisalie de Sully on the verge of tears, Charlotte showed no hint of mockery. She stepped closer, her voice soft and full of sympathy. If you think I've come to mock you, please put that thought aside. That is not my intention at all. What is wrong with dressing in magnificent attire? Lisalie looked up, bewildered, her eyes red-rimmed. Charlotte continued to pour honeyed words into her ears. Sparkling jewels, expensive treasures. These are the weapons of U.S. women. Is that not so, Lady de Sully? The validation struck a chord, and Lisalie, unable to hold back, burst into tears. Charlotte kindly offered her a white handkerchief. Take it. Holding onto empty pride brings no benefit. Do you feel better now? Seeing her prey completely softened, Charlotte fanned the flames. Lady de Sully, don't you want your revenge? They are surely mocking you behind your back, calling you a nouveau riche, a girl made of jewels. Don't you want to make them regret it? Charlotte's incitement was like oil on fire. Lisalie clenched her fists, her eyes blazing with hatred. I want to make them regret it. I want my revenge. Charlotte curled her lips into a satisfied smile. I shall help you carry out your revenge. First, become my close friend. Out in the garden, the group of ladies, led by Lady Luce, was still strolling leisurely. They were confident that Lisalie would soon be forced to crawl back and beg for forgiveness. However, the scene that followed left them completely stunned. Lisalie and Charlotte walked into the garden, arms linked and chatting happily. Noticing the bewildered crowd, Charlotte feigned surprise. Oh my, I thought you all said you wouldn't attend anymore. Is something the matter? Lisalie? Lisalie squeezed Charlotte's hand and replied with pride. That's right. They all said they were leaving, didn't they? I never expected the House de Sully to have so many uninvited guests. With the support of the Villainess of House Noha, Lisalie instantly turned the tables. She shouted at the butler. Butler, why are you just standing there staring while all these uninvited guests infest the mansion? Have you lost your mind? Throw them all out at once. The ladies were instantly thrown into a panic, hastily urging Luce, "Lady Luce, please apologize quickly. We're about to be kicked out," Luce shouted back in fury. "Why should I apologize? I didn't say anything wrong. Let's see how long she can protect you. By the time you're abandoned, it'll be too late to regret it." Lisali smirked. "We shall see what happens then." Seeing that she couldn't shake Lisali's confidence, Luce offered a malicious smile behind her fan. "Acting all high and mighty. No matter how magnificent your dress is, those who need to know already know everything. Your house de Soli is drowning in debt." The scandalous accusation rang out, causing Lisali's face to turn deathly pale. In the dim, gloomy office of House Noha, Duke Dominic puffed on his cigar in smug satisfaction. He and Quincy were discussing the perfect trap they had laid for the Desoli family. Desperate and blinded by greed, the Desoli heir had borrowed a massive sum from Noha, accepting their own mountain as collateral for the loan. Little did they know, the lost treasures of the old dynasty were buried beneath that very mountain. Dominic chuckled with cruel delight. It was hard to contain his glee when those fools from Desoli came begging for loans. "Didn't I always say so? The more obvious a person's desire, the easier they are to lead by the nose." Quincy stood idly by. The Desoli debt was so vast, they would have to sell several mines to repay it. Yet those idiots preferred to forfeit the mountain rather than sell their mines. Quincy feigned concern and asked, "Father, what if the Desoli family finds a new business venture and pays us back?" Dominic scoffed in disdain. Where would they ever find the time or resources for that? Most importantly, they have no idea of the mountain's true value. "Enough. Stop talking nonsense. Go brew my tea. Without a cup of tea made by your hand, I wouldn't survive a single day." Quincy offered a dutiful, obedient smile. "I shall prepare it at once, if you will excuse me." Stepping out of the room, the smile vanished from Quincy's face instantly. Power derived from past legacies is truly meaningless. Even the Emperor knows it, which is why he sent Edward to the front lines to solidify his power. But one thing his father said was true. The clearer a person's greed, the easier they are to manipulate. All these recent events were carefully orchestrated by Quincy himself. After intercepting the shipment of precious stones Alfonso intended for the royal family, he leaked word to the Desoli house that Duke Edward was in urgent need of those minerals. In their financial desperation, the Desolis immediately drove the price of the precious stones to ridiculous heights. If Edward bites and buys them, he will suffer massive financial losses. And if he refuses, the Desolis will lose their mountain to House Noha as planned. Either way, Edward will pay a heavy price, and that bitterness will become a barrier to his marriage with Charlotte. Quincy ordered the butler with triumph. "Serve my father his tea, then send someone to escort Charlotte back." The butler reported with a hesitant expression. "My lord, I reached the Divine Villa, but my lady wasn't there. The manager said she left days ago." Quincy went blank. "What?" The next morning, in Divine, the House Edward carriage was ready to depart. Knight Jean hesitated as he looked at Charlotte. "My lady, are you truly not coming with us?" Charlotte handed him a carefully sealed letter. Speaking with indifference, "I've written everything Alfonso needs to know in this letter. You only need to deliver it to him personally. My business here is finished. I have no reason to return with you. Besides, by now, Quincy must have discovered you're gone." Recalling the events of that time, Lisali sobbed as she confessed the truth. "My brother took a massive loan from the sanctuary after his investment failed. The Noha Mountain isn't particularly important, but it is the legacy of my ancestors. Now, due to that crushing debt, the mountain is about to be seized." Charlotte fell deep in thought. She immediately saw through the dirty scheme. The sanctuary's lending operation was actually backed by House Noha. They baited the Desoli heir with sweet lies, then deliberately spread rumors that Duke Edward needed precious stone urgently. Noha's true goal was to swallow the Labine dynasty's treasure hidden under the mountain. Knowing the truth, Charlotte turned to her men. "Is everything proceeding as planned?" "Yes, my lady. The workers have finished laying explosives across the Noha Mountain." Charlotte nodded, handing them a generous bag of gold. "Give this to them and tell them to leave immediately. This is hush money, so be generous." Looking at the mountain in the distance, she whispered softly, "I hope Alfonso won't be too angry." At the Edward estate, Serge trembled as he read the letter Jean brought from Charlotte. "Because of that, I have rigged the Noha Mountain with explosives. The Desoli family lacks the resources to handle this, so this will surely become a powerful weapon for you. I suggest you use this to negotiate. Wishing you happiness. Sincerely, Charlotte Noha." As the letter was read aloud, the study fell into utter chaos. One guard burst into laughter. "Oh, what a truly one-of-a-kind idea. Explosive mines, indeed. I wouldn't have dared to imagine such a thing." Serge roared in a fit of rage. An idea? Is that what you call it? You fool. Jean. What on earth have you done? Jean stammered, panicked. I was only carrying out my orders. How could I have known the letter held such a bold demand? Amidst a frantic bickering of his subordinates, Alfonso sat perfectly still at his desk. The pen in his hand snapped under his tight grip. His silence emanated a chilling, suffocating pressure. The knights fell instantly silent, whispering in trembling tones. Is he actually angry? I have never seen the Duke in such a state before, Serge asked, his voice shaking. Your Grace, what would you have us do now? Alfonso answered with a slow, icy tone, his dark blue eyes flickering with murderous intent. Jean, we are leaving for House Desoulis at once. Prepare everything.